let me ask on the morality side, in the books that I mentioned, God Delusion and Outgrowing God, you described that human beings don't need religion to be moral. So, from an engineering perspective, we want to engineer morality into AI systems. So in general, where do you think morals come from in humans?
A very complicated and interesting question. It's clear to me that the moral standards, the moral values of our civilization changes as the decades go by, certainly as the centuries go by, even as the decades go by. And we in the 21st century are quite clearly labeled 21st century people in terms of our moral values. There's a spread. I mean, some of us are a little bit more ruthless, some of us more conservative, some of us more liberal, and so on. But we all subscribe to pretty much the same views when you compare us with, say, 18th century, 17th century people, even 19th century, 20th century people. So we're much less racist, we're much less sexist, and so on than we used to be. Some people are still racist and some are still sexist, but the spread has shifted. The Gaussian distribution has moved and moves steadily as the centuries go by. And that is the most powerful influence I can see on our moral values. And that doesn't have anything to do with religion. I mean, the religion of the morals of the Old Testament are Bronze Age morals. They're deplorable, and they are to be understood in terms of the people in the desert who made them up.
Richard Dawkins really doesn't seem to get it. He really doesn't seem to understand the point. Or it's that he understands it, but he just wants to paint a case and highlight or present this idea that it's very easy to account for morality on atheism and naturalism in some sort of substantial way, when that's simply not the case. As he does in the beginning of this clip and in his book, Outgrowing God, he shares this idea in regards to morality. Morals are something that have been changing over time, and therefore, what he's highlighting is that they are subjective, subject to change, subject to our outlook, subject to us as limited human beings. He seems to want to suggest this idea that we've been refining them over time to the point where we're at today, where we have it pretty good, we have it quite accurate, and we know what's good, we know what's bad, and we've pretty much figured a lot of it out, and that we're at a position now where we can look back and we can fire away and say this was bad, this was wrong, this was evil. What's very interesting, the first thing is that in the beginning of the video he presents a very subjective outlook on morality. And in the second part of the video, near the end of that clip you've just seen, he seems to climb up on this moral pedestal, where it's somehow, and he seems to, it comes across as if he has some sort of objective grounding now, and from where he is firing away and saying this is bad, this is wrong, this is evil. And to do this in any definitive way, you need to have an objective account for morality. Now the question is, where do you get that from on atheism or naturalism? You can't make sense of that. On top of this, even if we grant him that we have been, refining morals over time, and we're at a point today where we have it pretty good, well, what is that criteria that you're assessing that by? What is that criteria that you're looking at saying, yes, we have it pretty good today? Without which it will be impossible to even make such a claim that we're getting closer to what's more accurate from a moral perspective, right? What does that even mean on atheism and naturalism? If you look at it purely from an evolutionary perspective, our objective here in this world is to propagate our DNA, pass on our genes. And therefore our moral outlook is subject to this. It's not about what's actually good or bad, right or wrong. And this is the issue on atheism and naturalism. A worldviews where everything is a result of one big accident. There is no such thing as objective moral values and duties. There is no such thing as things being morally good in any objective way. It's all subjective, and it's all subject to change. And this is the contradiction. It's a thorn in the foot of atheism. They cannot provide for an objective account for morality. And this is why I always say atheism, it's such a, I don't know how to put it. It's such a poor ideology, and it's so bad that it just strips you from being able to account for what you know to be true as a human being. And that's the absurdity. If you look at it from an existential perspective or a moral perspective or any other perspective. And this is why I always encourage atheists and naturalist, look, fine, you don't want to look into Islam right now, you don't believe in Islam, for whatever reason, at the very least, reconsider your atheism and naturalism and start to, once you understand the contradictions and how it contradicts your very nature, start to look elsewhere. And if you are open-minded, look into Islam, and I'm sure you'll find, how it's, and what you will find, and what will blow your mind is that Islam accounts for our very nature as human beings and accounts for those things that we know to be true, that we struggle to provide an account for in atheism and naturalism. And that in itself, when you look at the utility of Islam from this perspective, that in itself is a clear sign at the very least and proof for many. Anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, take care.